December 1900. North Atlantic Ocean. A stretch of water so violent that even experienced sailors treat it with fear. Storms form without warning. Waves rise like mountains. And ships, no matter how strong, can disappear without leaving a trace. Far away from the mainland of Scotland, surrounded by nothing but cold ocean and jagged rocks, lies a small group of islands known as the Flannan Isles. And on one of those islands stands a structure built for survival. The Flannan Isles Lighthouse. A tall, lonely tower meant to guide ships safely through one of the most dangerous stretches of sea in the world. Inside this lighthouse, 3 men are stationed. James Ducat, the head keeper. Thomas Marshall, the second keeper. Donald MacArthur, the assistant keeper. All 3 were experienced lighthouse men. They had worked in harsh conditions before. They understood isolation. They understood danger. And most importantly, they understood responsibility. Their job was simple but critical. Keep the lighthouse light burning at all times. Because if the light went out, ships would crash into the cliffs and vanish into the sea. For the first few weeks, everything was normal. The lighthouse operated as expected. The light was visible from passing ships. The logbook entries were routine. Weather reports were recorded. Maintenance was done on schedule. Meals were prepared. Life followed a predictable rhythm. But the Flannan Isles were never truly predictable. The isolation begins to sink in slowly. There are no towns nearby, no visitors, no communication with the outside world except occasional supply ships. The ocean is constantly present, surrounding the lighthouse on all sides, cutting it off from everything familiar. Days feel longer than they should, nights feel heavier, and silence becomes something you start to notice too much. Still, nothing unusual was reported in the beginning. The men continued their duties, the lighthouse continued to function, and ships continued to pass safely through the waters below. But everything changed in December 1900. On the 15th of December, a passing vessel noticed something unusual in the distance. The lighthouse was dark. No beam of light cutting through the fog, no signal, no indication that anyone was inside. At first, the crew assumed it was a temporary issue. Lighthouse equipment could fail in harsh weather. Maintenance delays were possible. But this situation felt different. Because a lighthouse failing for a few hours is one thing. But a lighthouse staying dark for days is something else entirely. The ship reported the issue, but there was no immediate response from the island. Days passed. Another ship passed through the same waters. The lighthouse was still dark. No light, no smoke, no movement. At this point, concern turned into urgency. Authorities were informed, and a relief vessel was dispatched to investigate. As the ship traveled toward the Flannan Isles, the ocean grew more unpredictable. Waves struck the hull, wind howled across the deck, fog reduced visibility. The island felt distant, almost unreachable. When the lighthouse finally came into view, something felt wrong immediately. There was no light at the top of the tower. No signal lantern. No sign of human activity. Just a silent structure standing against the storm. The relief ship anchored near the island, and a rescue team prepared to go ashore. The cliffs were steep and dangerous. The landing itself was difficult. Every step required caution. As they climbed toward the lighthouse, the atmosphere grew heavier. The wind was loud, but everything else felt strangely quiet. When they finally reached the entrance, they noticed something that immediately raised concern. The lighthouse door was open. Not broken, not forced, just open. That alone was unusual. Lighthouse keepers were trained to secure every entry point, especially in a place like this. The rescue team entered cautiously. Inside, the silence was absolute. There was no sound of footsteps, no voices, no movement. The main room looked intact, but something was clearly wrong. A table was set as if someone had prepared for a meal. Chairs were placed around it. One chair had been knocked over and left on its side. A coat was missing from its hook near the wall. But there were no people. No bodies, no signs of struggle, no indication of violence. The rescue team moved deeper into the lighthouse. The kitchen was undisturbed. Food had been left on plates. Bread was still sitting where it had been placed. Cups remained on the table as if someone had stepped away for just a moment. In the sleeping quarters, the beds were unmade. Blankets were half-folded. Personal belongings were still in place. Everything suggested sudden interruption, but not destruction. It did not look like an attack. It did not look like a robbery. It did not look like anything they could immediately explain. And yet, the 3 men who were supposed to be there were gone. Completely gone. The search continued through every level of the lighthouse. Storage rooms were checked. Equipment was inspected. Every corner was examined. But there was nothing. No bodies inside. No signs of escape. No hidden rooms. Nothing. Then attention turned to the logbook. The logbook was the official record of everything that happened inside the lighthouse. At first the entries were normal, daily weather reports, maintenance notes, routine observations. But then the tone begins to shift. One entry describes strong winds, severe weather conditions, dangerous seas surrounding the lighthouse. The keeper writes about extreme conditions that made movement difficult. But there is a problem. Nearby weather stations and maritime records from the same period show no evidence of such a storm. No major weather event had been recorded in that region at that time. And then comes the final entry. It states that the storm had passed, that conditions were now calm, that everything had returned to normal. After that entry, the logbook ends. No further notes, no explanation, no continuation. Just an abrupt stop in the middle of routine life. The lighthouse had gone silent. A full investigation begins immediately. Search teams comb the island thoroughly. Every cliff is examined. Every rock formation is checked. The shoreline is carefully inspected. Boats search the surrounding waters. But nothing is found. No bodies wash ashore. No wreckage is discovered. No personal belongings are recovered. It is as if the 3 men were erased from existence. This is where the mystery deepens. Because in most disappearances there are clues left behind, evidence of struggle, physical traces, something that explains what happened. But here there is nothing. Only an empty lighthouse. Over time, many theories are proposed. One of the most common is the rogue wave theory. A massive wave could have struck the island unexpectedly. One keeper may have been swept away. The others may have tried to rescue him. All 3 could have been lost to the sea. It is a possible explanation, but it does not fully account for the scene inside the lighthouse. Because if a wave caused the disappearance, there would likely be signs of chaos, water damage, broken objects, disrupted surroundings. But the lighthouse interior is almost too orderly. Another theory suggests psychological breakdown caused by extreme isolation. The Flannan Isles were extremely remote. Weeks of isolation can affect the human mind. Stress, confusion, fear, and hallucinations could potentially lead to accidents. But again, this theory struggles to explain the complete lack of evidence. A third theory suggests a sudden accident near the cliffs. Perhaps one man slipped. Perhaps the others attempted a rescue. Perhaps all 3 were lost in quick succession. But even then there should have been signs, footprints, equipment, bodies, anything. Yet nothing was ever recovered. As investigators continue to search for answers, the mystery only grows deeper. The lighthouse stands exactly as it was found, undamaged, untouched, silent. No one can determine why the men left. No one can determine how they left. And no one can determine where they went. Today, more than a century later, the Flannan Isles Lighthouse still stands on that remote island in the North Atlantic. Waves continue to crash against the cliffs below. Winds continue to pass through the empty structure, and the ocean continues to surround it like it always has. But the lighthouse no longer serves its original purpose in the same way. Because the light that once guided ships was kept by 3 men who vanished without a trace. And the question that remains, even after all this time, is still the same. What happened on that island in December 1900? Because some stories end with answers, but some stories end with silence.